Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Sandy Pines regular Board of Directors meeting. And this is the last public meeting for the season, and so welcome. I must say that when you look from here, it's really beautiful looking out those windows. But if you came over in a cart, it's probably a bit cool this evening. So I'd like to call the meeting to order, and first of all, we'll begin with our invocation, and Dennis King will do the invocation for us.
Let's pray. Alrighty, Father, we thank you for all the blessings you have bestowed upon us. We praise you and ask that you guide us now in this meeting, that we may be united in the spirit of mutual respect as we exchange ideas and work together for the good of our Sandy Pines community. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Well, before I invite new members or the members for comments, I would just like to welcome our new members to the board this evening. Ellen Carpenter, Brian Elling, and Brian happened to be called away for work, and he's in another state this evening. And we have Kelly Johnson and Chad Ostrom. So welcome to those four new members. We're glad you're joining the board this evening. So now we'll go to member comments. We have the microphone over here to your left, and if anybody would like to come up, please identify yourself and your site number, and we will listen to your comments.
Marion Larson, K296. I'm going to direct this question to Jean. Is it true that the transfer fee is going to be increased to $1,000? If you're not going to answer it, am I going to get something in writing? Because I have another part of this question too.
That's up to you. I mean, if you want me to answer it, I'll answer it. Okay, for your first question, yes, it's going to $1,000.
My second question on that is, does it cost that much to transfer?
Absolutely not. But the reason it's going up this time, part of the reason anyway, is that we believe that as a park, Sandy Pines brings value to each site by the amenities that we have and we support as members. So when a member, which they can sell on their own, we believe that the $1,000, which represents that 7.5%, which is what our sales fee is through the park, that represents about $13,000 in retail value. We believe that site should be worth that to that member, and that's the reason we take it in. What we use it for marketing. We use it for upkeep. It goes into general operations. But the main reason for this increase was that if you choose to sell your place by owner, we believe that there's a portion of that is due Sandy Pines because of what we do to keep the park up and to market the park.
So even if you transfer it to your child, it still is that fee?
It's a transfer fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, then let's go back to our agenda. And the next item is the roll call.
Ellen Carpenter. Here. Rick Day. Here. Brian Elling, absent. Jenny Hager, absent. Jim Huck. Here. Kelly Johnson. Here. Dennis King. Here. Chad Ostrom. Here. Don Van Duselaar. Here. All present.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the election of officers, and if you picked up an agenda when you walked in, you will see there are names by the officers of the board, and they were listed that way, which those that were available and said that they would again serve in those positions. This was all done at the study session. So you will notice that with 3 positions, the chairman, the secretary, and the treasurer, there's only one name listed, and that's because no other member of the board said that they wanted to be recognized to serve in either one of those 3 positions. So we need a motion to have those set before the board. So
Make a motion to cast a unanimous ballot as presented for those 3 positions.
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Now, in the past, we have done this by paper ballot. Is it okay with the members if we just do this by voice vote? Yes. Anybody object? Okay, now, then all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Then we have the vice chair, and we have 2 members listed there, and we do have a ballot for that. So, Jane, if you would like to, if someone would like to make the motion to put that on the floor. Okay, it's motion has been made and seconded.
Okay, I'll come back to down there. And the winner, call the winner, would be Rick Day. Thank you.
Okay, so Rick Day will be the vice chairman for this coming year. Item number 6 is the approval of the minutes of the regular session of August 17. So we have a motion to put that on the floor.
Motion to approve. Support.
Okay, the motion is made and supported. Are there any corrections that anybody has noticed or any changes that need to be had? Okay, if not, then all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That is carried. Item number 7 is the approval of new park members. We have 35 new memberships to approve this evening. The breakdown shows that of the 35, 22 are working memberships, 13 are retired members. So that gives you the somewhat of an idea, and that question always comes up. How many folks of this in this park are retired and how many are still really actively employed? So the vast majority of the membership in this park are working members. So could I have a motion to approve these new members? Motion by Jim and
Support.
supported by Rick. Any comments or questions from board members? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That is carried. The next item on our agenda is executive personnel comments. I have no particular comments to make on behalf of the chair, but I will turn the mic over to our park president. He has some comments to make.
Okay, thank you, Don. Just a couple of things to note. As our year winds down, we are gathering up some of the revenue information and accounting procedures that take place on a monthly basis. And I have one that was a surprise to me, because since 2013, our camping sales have increased very steadily at a pretty good pace, and kind of expected it to start leveling off. But in 2013, we had 185,000 round dollars in camping sales, and in 2018, we are at 355,906, almost $356,000, which is equivalent to $166 per membership equivalent in dues revenue. So that was a pleasant surprise. It was a little over, it was double digit. I was 10 or 11% over last year yet, which was I'm very happy with that. We had 1,389 reservations this year, as compared to 863 in 2013. So the 2013 number is supported by the 863 reservations, and this year's number significantly more. The second thing, so congratulations to the park for having a great camping program, and for the campsites that have been renovated has made a definite increase. We haven't increased our camping fees much. We've increased our camping facilities. When I got here, we had two park model trailers. Now we have 5, and there were 10 cabins at the time, which we still have. So. But the renovation of the campsites has certainly improved our camping activity as well. So we're really pleased with that. The second thing that I want to mention, we're very excited about. Got news this week. We had a news release that FEMA put out on September 14 out of Chicago. It said the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, has released $2,822,855 in pre-disaster mitigation funds to Salem Township for construction, and that is for the application that Steve DeArmond wrote last fall for a building to replace the building that was on the North Shore. There'll be more information coming out about it, about the details of what that building is, and we hope to do that in the very near future. We're waiting to hear from our Michigan State Police mitigation officer for his official word, but the FEMA news releases and news releases that have been shown in other sites and in other newspapers are we're very confident that these funds were in fact awarded. So that's an awesome thing, and it'll be a great building. It'll hold about 1,000 people for storm shelter, and it will be a very useful building for the park and its members. So we're very happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. That certainly is good news to see a building in the place of the old Golden Onion. The next item on our agenda is the appointments, and we have a recommendation to appoint Dick Pitcher to the Rules Committee. I'm going to turn to Dennis for that. It's on,
recommendation that we appoint Dick Pitcher also to the Safety and Security Committee.
okay. And then basically we're amending that motion to add him also to Safety and Security. And if we're going to make an amendment to the motion, basically under Robert's Rules of Orders, we should really confirm that with a vote. So I will call for that. All in favor of that amendment to this resolution, adding Rick also to the Safety and Security Committee. All in favor signify by saying aye. Okay, opposed, same sign. Now, that motion has been amended, so let's go back to the original motion. Did we move to have that put on the floor? I think that's already on the floor, correct? Okay. Any other comments or questions from board members in regards to this amended motion? Okay, if not, I will call for the question. All in favor of this motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. That is carried. Item number 8 on our agenda is a motion to approve the July 2018 financial statements for Sandy Pines. So I'm going to turn to Kimberly to make some comments about our financials.
On Thursday, September 13th, the Sandy Pines Finance Committee met to review the financial statements of July 2018 for Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails and Lake Monterey Golf Course. Through the review, they did an extensive review of the July check registers for both entities, the financial statement numbers, and capital expenditures for the 2018 fiscal year. A couple of things to know. Sandy Pines cash position, we're still focusing on retaining the cash position and hitting that target that our accountants had given us of 184 days to maintain that position, not knowing where the economy is going to go, and maintaining that to keep a strong hold on our park. So the one note I want to make on the revenue and expenses for July is the year-to-date on the cable Wi-Fi was currently $50,000 over budget. We weren't too concerned. We're working with negotiations with Charter on a couple of the billing issues, but it should be close to budget by the end of the year, and we've made some adjustments into the next year on that. Working with the cable vendors and companies doesn't always seem to be the easiest task sometimes, but they're trying to get comfortable with our park and our structure as well. So we did receive just last week the final numbers and finalized contract just for the Wi-Fi costs in 2019 season, and that should remain the same. As I mentioned previously, the cable costs will go up for Sandy Pines, and we've made adjustments to the budget for that. Other than that, the sales activity in 2018 is a little bit less than 2017, but I do want to note that 2017 was an extraordinarily high year for sales with the economy and so forth. While 2018 was still below 2017, we're still at a good point and sitting well within budget. Lake Monterey Golf Course continues to be strong this year, even with the golf course has noted that it has been a little difficult within the year just with the weather and so forth. Obviously, that's one of their biggest factors with the rain or the heat. It's been hard nonetheless, but their gross revenue was up about 1%, but overall net profit is 19%. So that just goes to show that when the gross revenue tends to be right at budget, you know, they maintain it within the expenses within the park too. So they're doing a good job as well. But that's all I have to note for the board and the membership at this point.
Thank you, Kimberly. We will take each motion separately. Let's have a motion, first of all, for Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the Sandy Pines financial statement as of July 2018. Any comments or questions on behalf of board members? Okay, if not, I will call for the question. We'll have a roll call.
Brian Elling? Absent. Jenny's absent. Jim Huck?
Yes.
Kelly Johnson?
Yes.
Dennis King?
Yes.
Chad Ostrom?
Yes.
Don Van Dueselaar?
Yes.
Ellen Carpenter? Rick Day?
Yes.
7-0 approved.
Okay, then we'll take the golf course financial statement separately as well, so we need a motion to put that on the floor. Okay, moved and supported to accept the financial statements for the golf course. Again, any comments or questions on behalf of board members? Okay, if not, we'll call for the question and ask for a roll call.
Chad Ostrom. Don Van Duzelaar.
Yes.
Ellen Carpenter. Rick Day. Brian and Jenny absent. Jim Huck. Kelly Johnson. Dennis King. 7-0 approved.
Okay. Number 9, old business. There is no old business that I am aware of, so we'll go on to number 10, the new business. We have 3 resolutions and then a review of the Long Range Planning Committee. It's a summary. So let's take the first resolution, which is to amend the handbook rule book wording. Kelly serves on the Rules Committee, and so if we can have a motion and a second for this, we'll put it on the floor and we'll ask you to make some comments about it.
Okay.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. So Kelly, I'll turn to you and you can make some comments about the changes to those rules.
Okay. Earlier this spring, we had the opportunity to get MDEQ or the state to come in as we had some questions about some of the wording and language in the rules where it pertained to some of the like gazebos and the 4-foot rule. So we invited them in. We spent about 3 hours visiting sites and determined that we needed to change some of the language that was currently in our book and add some of the other things. And for the first one, for example, the rule 4, this is from the MDEQ, it says, a campground owner shall locate recreational units or other structures such as sheds, awnings, to provide the campground unobstructed path which is not less than 4 foot wide and which extends completely around the recreational unit. A campground owner shall ensure that a permanent structure requiring footing is not located on a campsite. So that is going to require us to take 2 different actions. The first one is we're going to have to add language that says members should locate recreational units or other structures such as sheds and awnings to provide an unobstructed path which is not less than 4 foot wide and which extends completely around the recreational unit. And number 7, all approvals shall ensure that a permanent structure requiring footings is not located on campsite. So that will be in addition to the current rules on Section 3, items requiring permits. The second portion of that is under all shade structures, and that basically we're going to remove the word permanent. So there's a number of different areas in that we start out by saying permanent, and according to the state and the state rules, we cannot have permanent structures that require footings in our campground. So we are going to vote to remove that word permanent. And then the last thing that we're going to do is add a grandfather policy. So based on the findings, it says 1, violations pertaining to revised or new Sandy Pine rules may not be grandfathered under certain terms of this policy. A, any rule changes for the purpose of compliance with MDEQ campground rules will take effect immediately upon board approval. And B, non-compliance to MDEQ rule circumstances may not be subject to the grandfather policy as determined by MDEQ. So if they come in and send us something and say, you can't do that, we can't do that. We have to make immediate adjustments. Number 2, if a grandfathered trailer, deck, gazebo, pergola, or shed is replaced, then that item must be brought to the compliance with MDEQ mandated campground rules. Number 3, if a membership is transferred, any prior granted grandfather clause will remain in effect with the exception of any MDEQ mandated non-compliant issue. If there is a Sandy Pine rule change that has created the ability for a grandfathered non-compliant park issue, the new member must be made aware of grandfathered violations and the policy in point number 1 above. And number 4, all federal, state, county, township, and MDEQ campground rules and regulations must be followed and will override a grandfathered item.
Thank you, Kelly. Any comments on behalf of other board members or questions? Okay, if not, then we will also adopt this by a roll call vote for this.
Kelly Johnson. Yes. Dennis King. Yes. Chad Ostrom. Yes. Don Van Duzer.
Yes.
Alan Carpenter. Yes. Rick Day.
Yes.
And Jim Huck.
Yes.
7-0 approved.
Next one is Resolution 092118B, and that is a approval of the remote participation regulation. Could I have a motion to put this on? So moved, and a second? Okay, it's been moved and a second. So just by way of explanation, this regulation was written by Sandy Pine's attorney. At our annual membership election, the membership approved and changed the bylaws so that we can hold meetings during the off-season with remote participation. That is something that really clarified the by rules for us, because there are, from time to time, it was necessary for the board to take action during the off-season. And there was always some discussion as to whether or not that was permissible. It wasn't clear in the bylaws. So with our vote, the bylaws have now been made much more clear that we can have a meeting during the off-season. And there are some listed reasons why someone may be remotely connected to a board meeting. And I just want to list some of those for you. A personal illness, out-of-town travel, unexpected lack of child care, family member illness or an emergency, weather conditions, military service, employment obligations, or a scheduling conflict. And it also indicates in here that it cannot be used rather lightly. If someone wants to say, I just want to avoid this meeting for some reason or another, according to the regulations, they cannot avoid a meeting for that reason. So that, in summary, is what is before the board in this remote participation for meetings. So I will turn to board members and see if you have any comments or questions to make in regards to this. Okay, none? Then we'll ask for the roll call.
Jim Huck. Yes. Kelly Johnson. Yes. Dennis King. Yes. Chad Ostrom. Yes. Don Van Duzer.
Yes.
Alan Carpenter. Yes. Rick Day.
Yes.
7-0 approved.
Okay, the next one is Resolution 092118C, and that again is a change to the handbook and the rule book in wording. So, Kelly, you have some comments and some information.
Make a motion to put Resolution 092118C on the floor.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Now, some explanation, Kelly.
The language we're going to add goes in for number 6, conduct rules for alcohol, drugs. Under 1, we're going to add number E, any person on park properly suspected of violations involving alcohol is required to submit a preliminary breath test, commonly known as BPT, upon request of a qualified security service officer. These violations include suspicion of operation of any motor vehicle while under the influence, including watercraft, being a minor in possession of alcohol, disorderly conduct involving alcohol or other alcohol-related violations. Refusing to submit to a preliminary breath test will result in a $200 fine and 10 points assessed to their site.
Thank you, Kelly. Any other comments that board members would like to make in regards to this change and the rules? Okay, hearing none, we'll ask for the roll call on this resolution.
Ellen Carpenter? Yes. Rick Day?
Yes.
Jim Huck? Yes. Kelly Johnson? Yes. Dennis King? Yes. Chad Ostrom? Yes. Don Van Dueselaar?
Yes.
7-0 approved.
Okay, the last item under new business is a review of the Long Range Planning Committee. The committee met several times throughout this summer, and they then presented a summary of the work and the discussion that they had, which is now before the board as a matter of information. And Jim Huck has been on that committee, and so we're going to turn to Jim to make some comments.
Kevin Hager is chairman of the committee, just so everybody understands that, but he said he'd rather go to his daughter's wedding than come here tonight. That's why Ginny's gone too. The Long Range Planning Committee met with various department heads throughout the season. Along with our committee's own thoughts, we put together a summary of long-range needs we see at Sandy Pines. This is not a complete list of items that were discussed, but these are important issues we'd like to share with you at this time. It is important that you understand that these are long-range needs and have not been adopted or approved at this time by the board or administration. The Long Range Planning Committee is an advisory that works to identify needs for the future of the park and passes them on to the board of directors and the administration for their review. These are future needs that will need to be addressed in time. Also be aware these are not the only needs for our park. These are some of the main highlight points that we found with our meetings with department heads. We feel the number one asset of our park is our lake, and additional maintenance should be considered to keep it in great condition for years to come. We suggest seeking professional advice and insight on the possibility of dredging the entire lake to recover washed-in sand and accumulated sediment to retain water depth and replenish beach areas. This could be done on a multi-year program to spread out the cost. Number two is the safety of our members is paramount. Because of that, we encourage you to continue building storm-type shelters when updating the bathhouses and other buildings around the park. Also, steps are being made to secure cart crossings of public roads. Some of you may have seen on 136, there's flashing lights for the cart crossings now. That's one that's already been implemented, and we're working on the others just to try and make things a little safer for our members. I shouldn't say we're doing it, we only advise, but the administration has already handled some of that. Technology seems to be a big item for most of the department heads that we spoke with. This includes cameras, software that is user-friendly for all departments, radio communication, security coordination, billing, park access, marketing, rentals, and many other things that are done in our park every day. We feel funds should be spent on keeping the park current with technology to the best extent possible. Number four, our park is over 40 years old, and we need to consider and prepare for replacement and updating of our infrastructure items such as water mains, roadway pavement, septic systems, etc. And just to clarify again, these are just high points that the committee found through our meetings and our own discussions, and have been passed on to the board and to the administration for their review and consideration. The committee mandates nothing. We're simply an advisory board like all committees. So thank you.
As we said when we introduced this item, this is being received as a matter of information. These are not items that are going to be voted on tonight. That's a very long list, and as Jim has indicated, these are recommendations, and for us to think about what's going to take place and what needs to happen in our park over the next several decades. So no doubt we have a lot of needs, and it's something that we just have to continue to focus on. And of course, that's one reason why the membership, I believe, supported the Capital Reserve Fund last year. So that will help us to plan for the future. Okay, that brings us to the end of our agenda. So we are up to number 11, the adjournment of the meeting. Do I have a motion? A motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. And again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming this evening.